Hi, thank you very much for joining me on this process video today. I hope you are enjoying the Alliance Française Festival. I love seeing all the collaboration and all the artwork that we have around us. And events such as this is a great opportunity to see more of that and get to know other artists, other creators that otherwise would take me longer to get in contact with. So I love this kind of event. So I really hope you're enjoying it as well. So today I'll be inking one of my comics. So this is a short story that I developed, or rather that I developed in short fiction form long time ago. And recently I came across a bunch of them when I was working through old sketchbooks, to do a good spring cleaning on the office from time to time. It's important. We tend to accumulate a lot of paper. But anyway, I came across this old notebook with a lot of the short fiction ideas. Then I managed to track back the final stories, and I never did anything with them. They were meant to be writing exercises. So since they never saw the light of day, I thought it would be a pity since I had so many ideas there. Whether they're good or not, I'll leave that up to open. But I thought it would be a great opportunity to bring them into the world. This one is a 12-page story about youth, impulsivity, chasing your dreams, and how our lives can change in a minute. So I really hope you enjoy this process. Of course, today is just one of the pages. This is a middle page because I thought it was packed with action and panels. And yeah, I thought it was a good page for you to join me on this live on. Here what you're seeing is what I normally do. For the longest time, whenever I worked with ink washes, and I do work with both ink washes and digital mediums. I throw some watercolor here and there, although it makes me nervous a little bit sometimes. So when I worked with ink washes, I used to first do the shades or the values. I used to start by the washes and then draw the lines around them. And then a few years ago, maybe 1 or 2 years ago, I decided to start trying the other way around for no particular reason. I think it was, what prompted it was probably a comic story that I had that the values were really tricky without the lines. I think it was that. I don't really remember anymore. And then since then I've been working on the lines first, and then eventually I would go into the washes. I use Indian ink for all of those. So it's the same material that I just do the lines and the washes with. I don't really change much in that sense. I'm not sure what is your preference for materials, if you're an artist there or if you're just somebody who's interested in the processes. I myself love process videos. The more different mediums than my own, the better. Of course, we can always learn when you watch artists who work with similar mediums. But for myself, sometimes I'm always curious about other methods, and you don't always come across people working in the same way. So I love seeing what is the particularities of each artist. There are, of course, limitations to the different mediums, but I noticed that we all find ways around. So when I was a younger artist, so when I was not that much involved in the community, which is a pity, but it happens. I was a bit of a shy artist for the longest time. And when I was so not close to other artists, I was putting myself under a lot of pressure, thinking, there's a right way of doing things and there's a wrong way of doing things. And then eventually I realized through those process videos that no, of course, as I said, there are limitations to the medium and techniques that you could use in your favor, but in the end it's all about artistic expression as well. So the ways or the paths through which you find the solution to the problem and inverted commas here, a problem being, you know, the solution to the artistic representation you want to reach. It's personal. So that brought me immense comfort. So one of the reasons why I really, really like process videos, and the reason why I was so utterly humbled by this invitation to feature here and show my own process, is because of that, is because I think by exposing our own paths, our own way of doing things, we can then perhaps bring comfort to other artists who are now second guessing, or perhaps you're going to see something and think it's a good idea, or perhaps you're going to see me working through this and be absurdly horrified by the fact that I'm not covering the corners of the pages. I know a lot of people sometimes has been, because of the risk of smudging with the ink. It never happened to me. I mean, of course it has, but not because of that, not as a result of the way I lean on the paper, mostly because of my own clumsiness. So of course I smudge the paper sometimes and I smudge the ink sometimes, but it's not a result of me working like that necessarily, or at least not all the time. So I really hope that this process video will bring you some idea of how I work, and that will perhaps inspire you to create some comics. Another thing that I really like when those festivals happen is how it can inspire new artists, or can inspire returning artists. How you can, perhaps it takes a comment, perhaps it takes a video, perhaps it takes just a little art piece to inspire you to create your own. And I don't think there are enough comics in the world, simply because the more comics the better, in my opinion. So I really hope that this will entertain you and hopefully inspire you for the next 10 minutes to do way better artworks than my own. You'll see that what I'm going through here is really just the details of this car, and every artist can tell you that drawing cars is one of the hardest things to do. I mean, I know there are a lot of artists there who love it, but for myself, that was not my favorite subject growing up. You know, I was perhaps in a different artistic obsession when I was younger, and practicing and studying my drawing. So nowadays I'm a little bit more comfortable with, once you realize how elements place itself inside a car, or how the bodies of masses behave inside a figure like that. It's very interesting. Now I'm a little bit more comfortable, to the point that you can see there's not only one but several cars on those pages. So that might seem like a hard task, and it was a little bit of a hard task, but as I said, I eventually became more comfortable around figures that I'm not drawn to necessarily. In this case of this story, because we're talking about a young couple who are throwing themselves in this adventure, at least up to this point in the story, it was very important to me that it was the element of how they are and where they are in the city. It was important. So this story, of course, you can just tell by the streets, but this story is meant to take place in a city very similar to the one I grew up, because this is a utterly mundane story, so to speak. There's nothing absolute fantastic about it, and that's why I wrote it at the time, and that's why I chose it to become my next short comic. So normally when I work with a short comic, 12 pages or so, it's not enough for a book. So I end up making it as a zine, and this particular one will be very interesting because not only it's a new story, it will be a new zine, and I will try to work in a collection of 3. So I think there are gonna be 2 other stories with similar themes that will go together. We'll see. I don't want to promise anything, so don't quote me on that, even though it's my own work. I'm gonna try to go for something like that. I have been feeling the need to do something similar to that. Anyway, let's see how it goes. Perhaps you will meet each other again in the next festival